Have you ever wondered how a nomadic tribe from the steppes of Mongolia built the largest contiguous land empire in history? In just a few decades, they conquered more territory than the Romans did in 400 years. This is the epic, complex, and often misunderstood story of the Mongol Empire. Our journey begins not with a vast empire, but with a boy named Temujin, born around 1162. Life on the Mongolian steppe was harsh, fractured by rivalries between clans. After his father was poisoned, Temujin's family was abandoned, and he endured years of hardship, even being enslaved at one point. But these trials forged him into a charismatic and ruthless leader. Through a combination of strategic alliances, masterful diplomacy, and sheer military genius, he began uniting the disparate Mongol tribes under his banner. By 1206, he had accomplished the impossible. A grand council, a Kurultai, proclaimed him Genghis Khan, the universal ruler of all Mongols. The Mongol nation was born. Genghis Khan's genius wasn't just in uniting his people, it was in how he organized them. The first wave of Mongol expansion was breathtaking. They swept south into the Jin dynasty of northern China, west into the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia, and across the plains toward Russia. The conquest of the Khwarezmian Empire was particularly brutal, sparked by the execution of Mongol envoys. Cities like Samarkand and Bokhara, centers of Islamic culture and learning, were razed. The Mongols were unstoppable, their cavalry tactics overwhelming every army they faced. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, his empire already stretched from the Caspian Sea to the Pacific Ocean. But the story didn't end with Genghis. In his will, he divided the empire among his 4 sons, creating separate khanates. His third son, Ogdi, was elected the new Great Khan. Under Ogdi, the expansion continued with even greater ferocity. The Mongols pushed deeper into China, conquered Russia, and launched a devastating invasion of Europe. In 1241, Mongol armies crushed Polish and Hungarian forces in a matter of days at the battles of Legnica and Mohi. Europe was in a state of panic, seemingly powerless to stop the Devil's Horsemen. Only Ogdi's unexpected death in 1241 saved Central Europe, as the Mongol princes were required to return to Mongolia to elect a new leader. The empire reached its peak under Genghis Khan's grandsons. Mongol Khan oversaw administrative reforms and launched campaigns on 2 fronts. His brother, Hulagu Khan, led the Mongol armies into the heart of the Islamic world. In 1258, he sacked Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, ending a 500-year-old dynasty. It was a cataclysmic event for the Islamic world. At the same time, another brother, Kublai Khan, focused on completing the conquest of China. After Mong's death in 1259, a civil war erupted between his brothers, Kublai and Erik Bok, over the succession. Kublai ultimately won, but the conflict shattered the unity of the empire. The Mongol Empire fractured into 4 successor states: the Golden Horde in Russia, the Ilkhanate in Persia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Yuan dynasty in China, founded by Kublai Khan. While they were technically part of a larger empire, they increasingly acted as independent and often rival states. Kublai Khan proved to be a remarkable ruler. As Emperor of China, he established his capital at Dadu, modern-day Beijing. He embraced Chinese culture to a degree, patronizing arts and sciences, but also maintained a distinct Mongol identity for the ruling class. His reign saw the famous visit of the Venetian merchant Marco Polo, whose writings would introduce medieval Europe to the wonders of the East. However, Kublai's costly and unsuccessful invasions of Japan and Java strained the empire's resources. This era, known as the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol Peace, was one of the empire's most significant legacies. For roughly a century, the vast territory under Mongol control was unified by a system of law and order. Trade flourished along the Silk Road, which was safer than it had ever been. Ideas, technologies, and goods flowed freely between East and West. Gunpowder, the magnetic compass, and printing technology moved from China to Europe, while Western science and medicine traveled east. It was a period of unprecedented cross-cultural exchange. But empires, no matter how great, eventually decline. In China, the Yuan dynasty faced growing resentment from the native Han Chinese population, combined with natural disasters and economic problems. In 1368, A peasant rebellion led by Zhu Yuanzhang overthrew the Mongols and established the Ming dynasty. In Persia, the Ilkhanate disintegrated due to internal strife and the lack of a clear heir. The Golden Horde held on longer, but eventually broke apart into smaller khanates, which were gradually absorbed by the rising power of Moscow. The Mongol Empire, a force that redrew the map of the world, ultimately succumbed to the same thing that plagued so many empires: internal division, the difficulty of ruling vast and diverse populations, and assimilation into the cultures they had conquered. Yet, their legacy is undeniable. They connected the world like never before, accelerating the course of history in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. They were more than just conquerors. They were agents of change, whose impact we can still feel today. Thank you so much for joining me on this whirlwind tour of the Mongol Empire. It's a story of immense complexity, and we've only scratched the surface. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history, and let me know in the comments which empire you'd like to see covered next. Until then, stay curious.